Welcome to the newest episode of How To in 2 Minutes. Today we're going to get to know the knives we might find in our kitchen, as well as some tips on how to use them to make food prep a little safer and easier. This is a chef's knife, and if you happen to have one of these in your kitchen, there's a trick to holding them a little bit differently than you would any other knife. You can use something called the pinch grip, where you pinch the top of the knife with your thumb and pointer finger while the rest of your fingers wrap around the handle the way they would normally. It takes a little getting used to, but I found that once I learned how to do it, this gives me a lot more control and allows me to use my knife better and more safely. This little buddy is a paring knife, also called a utility knife. It can do a lot of the same things a chef knife does, though it works better for smaller tasks. The next group of knives are the serrated knives, which are just called that because they have a serrated blade, meaning the blade looks kind of wavy. These knives are particularly good for bread, but also squishy fruits and vegetables, especially tomatoes. So here, the biggest knife is the bread knife on the left, and to its right is a tomato knife, but to be honest, I use them interchangeably in my kitchen, depending on whichever one is clean. On the far right is an old steak knife, and because it has that serrated blade, it also makes a pretty good stand-in for a tomato knife. Kitchen shears are a really underrated tool. They can be used for things like removing fat from meat, and they're great for leafy greens like herbs, but also removing the leaves from this kale stem, which technically is edible, but I'm really not a fan. It's also a great way to cut up pizza, and kitchen shears can be a fantastic alternative to knives if you have issues with your grip. Now, what do you do if you have a big rolling item like a watermelon? It can be really hard to cut these down the middle, especially while they're wobbling around. So a quick tip is just to slice off the edge where it's a lot easier to cut because it's thinner. That gives you a flat edge that you can then turn the item over onto, and that gives you a much more stable flat surface to work with. This works for any round item and is also a great trick for working with things that are shaped a little funky, like sweet potatoes. This last tip is called the claw grip, and it's a great way to keep your fingers safe. In the claw grip, your hand's going to form the shape of a claw, with your fingers pointing down and slightly inward. So even though the knife is close to my hand in some of these pictures, my fingertips are never actually in the knife's way. Thanks for watching today. I hope this was helpful, and feel free to let us know if there's any content you want to see in future videos.